Yes. Please. That's so awesome. I'm not live, right? How are you? I want to make sure that these aren't live. They are. Okay. I can look at Actually, do you mind if I just turn it to you to announce it, or you want me to? You prefer me to? Okay, hold on. Right, I need to make a note in my notes here when I conclude before I adjourn.
The main hub is in college.
I'll find it. Yeah. Okay.
And then the satellite is Congress and Signal. The main hub.
Okay, I'm not going to remember this. I will, unless you write it down for me.
I'll write it down.
Or adjourn, here are the meetings. And you could also slip me a note later if you want. We don't finish. You got it. Thank you. This is great. Wow, this is really awesome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How is everything?
This is just saying.
Gotcha.
No, because you.
Nope, I'm over here. No.
Oh, you don't want to say good morning anymore.
No. We'll come up and join you, I think, to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought Brett was going to come join us, but actually, if he joins me, then it needs to do it.
Okay.
It'd be nice to. Have a good day. But you know what? I like this setup where I can make eye contact with everybody's on the screen.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
All right, whoever's telling us to start, I'm following orders from Director Schmidt.
Yes.
I'm following orders from you. I do nothing until you hand it to me. You've got it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. As you can see, we are webcasting from our location here live, and then we are also here live at the Phoenix Convention Center. We're super excited to get this meeting started. We want to first recognize Penny Sharon from the Arizona League of Women Voters. She's the president, and she's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody could please stand.
Good morning, everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just so we have a little reminder, well, first of all, my name is Lori Van Haren. I am the Deputy Director of the Independent Redistricting Commission, and I am super excited to be here today with you. We have 2 microphones right now while we're getting used to some of the technological challenges of having 30 meetings over the span of the next 2 weeks. So if you will make sure to at least speak into both microphones, kind of like a press conference, and that way we can get all of what you're saying over to anybody who's joining us online. Appreciate it. Right now I'm going to turn it over to our chairwoman, Commissioner Newberg.
Hello and welcome, everybody. We are super excited. This is our 3rd public hearing in 3 days. They have been remarkably informative, and to be honest, we're quite honored and humbled. And with that, we will dive right in. Agenda item 1, call to order. I now call to order the listening tour of the Independent Redistricting Commission. Please note that if you would like to make a public comment, you may do so by signing in with staff and filling out the public comment card. If you haven't already done so, please fill out the Community of Interest survey. There is a QR code on signs at the sign-in desk and on the public comment cards that will direct you to the link. Please see a member of staff if you have any questions. This is very valuable data. We have an American Sign Language interpreter joining us virtually, and we have interpreters and headsets available for those in attendance. We also have a transcriptionist who will be transcribing every meeting. Please speak slowly and clearly so we have a clear record of your input. Will the interpreters in attendance introduce themselves now?
Hello, my name is Tiana. I am one of the ASL interpreters, and my team today is Angela Emerson. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we'll introduce the commissioners. It's been an absolute delight to meet most of, well, 4 of the 5 in person. It was the first time given these, COVID realities, and we're thrilled to have 3 of you on the line, well, 2 and 1 soon to join. My name is Erica Newberg. I'm from Chandler, Arizona, representing Maricopa County and also the independent chair. And if my colleagues can hear me and are online, please introduce yourselves.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. This is Derek Watchman. I'm from Winter Rock, Arizona, and represent Apache County, and I am the Democratic Commissioner. And so good morning, everybody.
Morning, everybody. My name is Shireen Lerner. I am one of the commissioners from Maricopa County. It's great to see you all there, and I am on one of the Democratic commissioners as well. Thank you.
Great to see you. Anybody else or further introductions later? Okay, we have Commissioner York about to join at some point. He is a Republican commissioner from Maricopa County. We also have a fellow commissioner, David Meal, who is not able to join us. I believe in our public presentation, we'll give him a formal introduction. But again, it's just been an absolute delight to visit with and get to know my colleagues. With that, we will now move to agenda item number 2, a presentation on the process. First is a representative of our legal team. Jillian, please. And please formally introduce yourself, since I didn't know who exactly when.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jillian Andrews. I am one of the legal counsel to the commission from the firm Ballard Spahr. I'm joined today by my colleagues from Ballard, Dennis Burke, who's hiding in the back, and Sean Summers up here. And then our co-counsel from the firm Snell and Wilmer is Brett Johnson, who's here with us today. So before we get started, we just wanted to give a little background into the existence of the commission, the creation of it, and the purposes that it serves. So that way we're all, a little educated and on the same page, so that we understand and can have productive public comment today. So if you see up here, we have a few slides for you, going way back to the founding of the country and the United States Constitution. That created the requirement for reapportionment of congressional districts. So, the Constitution gives us the guidance that all states must do an enumeration and reapportionment every 10 years. That's what we use the census data for. But other than that, they basically left it up to the states to decide how each state would do it. And so Arizona, from statehood in 1912 until 2000, did things like all other states at the time, and like most states still do today, which is to let the state legislature control redistricting. And then in 2000, the Arizona voters passed Prop 106, and that amended the state constitution to create the Independent Redistricting Commission. So Prop 106 was initiated and passed by a majority of voters and implemented into the state constitution in Article 4. And I know it's small, so you probably can't see that, but the text of Article 4 says that by February 28th of each year that ends in a 1, such as 2021, an independent redistricting commission shall be established to provide for the redistricting of congressional and state legislative districts. So an important thing to remember as we're talking today is that the commission is in charge of setting the maps for both congressional and state legislative districts. So if you hear people use the term CD, they might be referring to a congressional district, whereas LD is a legislative district, and the commission does them both. You already got introduced to most of the commissioners, but here on the slide you can see everyone's name. And the important thing about the makeup of the commission is that it's actually required by the Constitution that the commission have 5 members, no more than 2 of whom can be from the same political party. And then, as you can see, everyone is not all from different counties, but there are multiple counties represented, which is also a requirement in the Constitution. So you got a chance to meet everyone so far, except for Commissioners Meal and York. Commissioner York might be joining us, but you can see up here that Commissioner Meal, who can't be with us today, is a Republican commissioner from Pima County. And I think that covers everyone. The other important thing that Prop 106 did, aside from creating the Independent Redistricting Commission, was actually set forth in Article 4 some criteria that the commission has to follow when it's creating its maps. And so there are 6 criteria that you will hear the commission discuss frequently that they take into consideration when drawing the maps. And the first one is that all of the state's districts must comply with the United States Constitution and the United States Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act, or the VRA, is a federal statute that was passed in the civil rights era to make sure that minority populations have the same access to the ballot and the same voting power to the extent possible as do majority populations. The second criteria is that both congressional and state legislative districts shall have equal population to the extent practicable. That just means there should be roughly the same number of people in each district. The third is that districts shall be geographically compact and contiguous to the extent practicable. When we talk about compactness and contiguity, what we're talking about is really the physical shape of the district, that it should be as compact as possible, and then also that it should be contiguous. That just means that there shouldn't be kind of an island floating on its own, that all parts of the district should be touching. The fourth is that district boundaries shall respect communities of interest to the extent practicable. That, of course, is why you all are here today, is to share with the commission your thoughts on what constitutes a community of interest and how the commission can look out for your community of interest when it's drawing the maps. Next, to the extent practicable, district lines shall use visible geographic features, city and town and county boundaries, and undivided census tracts. That's pretty self-explanatory. Where possible, the map will look to, recognize municipal boundaries, physical boundaries such as rivers, anything like that. And then the last one, to the extent practicable, competitive districts should be favored, where to do so would create no significant detriment to the other goals. So where it wouldn't create a detriment to the other goals, competitive districts, districts that would enhance competition between candidates should be favored. So those are the 6 factors that the commission has to take into account. And the next slide that you'll see is the projected timeline for the commission. And this is what the commission has come up with. Now that you see the kind of enormity of the task in front of the commission, this is the projected timeline for getting all of that done. So the first one, July to August, is the initial listening tour. Obviously, that's what we're all here for today. After this tour, and in mid-August, we will hopefully receive the census data, which this year is delayed due to the pandemic. And then in September, the grid map shall be drawn and adopted. Basically, the grid map is the first step in the mapping, and that's where the commission is just kind of required to lay a grid over the state, break it up into equal chunks, and from there, the grid map is adjusted to create the final maps. So September through October is when the commission will be working to develop draft maps and adopting an official draft map. And then in October to November is another very important opportunity for public comment. There's a constitutionally required 30-day public comment period on the draft map. That's when the commission will publish the draft and make sure that everyone in the public has a chance in those 30 days to comment and provide input. And then in December through the end of the project is when the commission will be revising that draft map and adopting the final plan. And so this slide is opportunities for public involvement. All of you have already shown that you are committed to being involved in the process. That's why you're here today. But this isn't the only opportunity to get involved throughout the process, and the commission really hopes that you will take them up on the chance to participate in all of these ways. So first, the commission's weekly meetings are open to the public. They're broadcast live on YouTube. You can, access the link, watch it live, and submit public comments throughout the meeting. We have a link up there, but the website irc.az.gov is very easy to navigate. You could get on there, find a link to the next meeting, and find where you can submit public comment as well. The next is the reason we're all here today, which is input on communities of interest. What the commission really wants to hear from you today is what geographic areas or neighborhoods should they consider when they're drawing draft maps? What do you think your community of interest is, and how can they take it into account when they're drawing the maps? And then input on draft maps, which Mark is going to talk more about, but there are several tools that the mapping consultants and the commission have provided to make sure that the public has plenty of input in draft maps. So you can actually submit your own proposed draft map, as well as commenting on in-progress draft maps before the commission actually selects the final one. And Mark will talk more about how you can submit your own proposed map on the website. I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Flahan. I'm with Timmins, part of the mapping team. And the other folks we have on the mapping team that are present today is Parker Bradshaw. He is our coordinator for the project, and Ivy Beller-Sikansky, who is our demographer on the project. And after I give a couple slides, Ivy's going to come up and talk to you guys about community of interest and what is a community of interest, because that's all what we're talking about today. So what do we have for you guys? We have some empowerment tools that puts data into your guys' hands to be able to submit your community of interest survey back to us. So the first data tool that we have is our social economic report. It is an interactive site on the web, available 24/7, that gives you guys different data about demographics and social economics. And we have another slide that will talk to you about it in a little bit. The next piece is the mapping tools. So we have a community of interest survey. When you came in the building, you probably saw some QR codes sitting on the table. That survey is available in English and Spanish, available 24/7 on the web for you guys to be able to fill out and submit back to us your community of interest. It even provides you guys a map where you guys could submit exactly what your community of interest does. The next one is the redistricting system. So we'll have a redistricting system out there that'll allow you to submit maps and comment on maps, and that'll be coming. Next slide. Social economic report. So this is an interactive site. You can see there on the right side, that is a screenshot of it. It has 14 different demographic points on it. And CVAP is Citizen Voting Age Population. And then after that, it has a bunch of other demographics that you can show. So you can go to that site 24/7. You can turn on the different layers, scroll around Arizona, and see those different demographic points on the web. I'm not going to read through every data point, but they are all there listed on the screen. Community of Interest Survey. Here's a screenshot of what the survey looks like. Like I said, it's on the web. And you can see on the left, that's the start of the Community of Interest Survey. And then on the right, that actually shows the map that allows you guys to go in and map your community of interest and submit it back to us. That way we can get as accurate information for your community of interest. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Ivy to talk to you about what is a community of interest.
Thank you, Mark. So, what is a community of interest? It is a geographic area of people who share a common story or a common connection. That connection can be common social interests, shared demographic characteristics, similar impacts from a legislative and or congressional issue, or any other connection that leads people in a given area to believe they would benefit from being kept together, united in one legislative or congressional district. As you think about your community, think about the factors listed on the community survey that Mark just reviewed. That survey says, think about you and your neighbors. Do you have similar jobs? Excuse me. Do you rely on similar public services? Belong to the same neighborhood associations? Are you impacted by some regional environmental concern? Is your community defined by similar regional land use issues? Or how else can your community be defined? It can be defined with transit concerns, languages spoken, community celebrations or traditions, or other similar issues or characteristics. Any of these characteristics could define a community of interest. Next slide, please. Now it is your turn. As they travel the state on this listening tour, the commissioners want to hear from you. What do you want the commissioners to consider as they draft and ultimately adopt their maps? How do you define your community of interest? Using those online tools that Mark described, and in your testimony today, we want to hear what brings your community of interest together and what are your community's geographic boundaries? Remember, the commissioners can incorporate your community into their maps only if you let us know where your community is on the map. Thank you for being here today. I will now turn this back over to commission staff, and they will begin with your comments.
Okay, before we move on to the next agenda item, I'm going to read a couple of things for the meeting. Citizens may only speak when recognized by the chair or the presiding officer of the meeting if the chair is absent or otherwise has delegated hearing administrative authority. In compliance with Arizona's open meeting law, Speakers should confine their statements to the issue on the posted agenda, which is before the commission. Speakers are also requested to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes. Additionally, speakers are required to follow proper decorum. Speakers must use appropriate language. Foul and/or abusive language will not be tolerated. Any speaker failing to follow proper decorum or any other guidelines may be asked to leave. Any breach of the peace or disruption of a commission public hearing may be the cause of report to law enforcement, arrest, and prosecution. If someone has expressed the same sentiment as you, you do not need to speak in order to have your comment recorded. As long as you have filled out the survey, your input will be received and considered by the commission. Everyone is welcome to speak, however, should you choose to do so. Opposing viewpoints may be expressed by the citizens present. As a courtesy, citizens are reminded to address their comments to the chair and to the commission and not to the audience present. Please show respect for all speakers and avoid personal comments. Remember, the commission must hear all sides of an issue to make an informed decision.
And with that, we very much look forward to public comment. And so please, staff, let's begin the queue.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Crank, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Independent Redistricting Commission. But before we go forward, I would also like to introduce our Executive Director, Brian Schmidt, who is up front. And then, of course, we have our other staff member, Valerie Newman, who is outside. She's doing the sign-in and sign-in sheet. So that way you can put a name with a face as we continue to move forward. So with the first speaker, I would like to invite Kate Brophy McGee, and then up on deck is Whitney Johnson. Following Whitney Johnson is Janet Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I wanted to thank the Commission for holding these hearings. They're very important to the public, and even though the testimony that you're taking may fall and the work you're doing may fall under the heading of no good deed goes unpunished, it is so necessary, and know that average, ordinary, everyday Arizonans so appreciate what you are doing. My name is Kate Brophy McGee, and for 10 years I represented Legislative District 28 in the Arizona House of Representatives and the State Senate. My term ended in January of this year, my latest term. The district includes a Sunny Slope, North Central Phoenix, Biltmore, Arcadia, the Shea Corridor, the entire town of Paradise Valley, and 90 homes in Scottsdale. Carves out a big piece in the middle of Phoenix. And my comments regarding the LD28 communities of interest, I hope will inform your work. I made a lot of connections with neighborhood leaders across the district. By definition, they are very granular representatives of their communities of interest and apolitical. I will tell you that representing District 28 over time became a tale of two districts, East Side and West Side, west of the State Route 51 and east of State Route 51. The district itself goes from I-17 to Scottsdale Road, in addition to the freeways and arterial routes connecting Phoenix north and south, like 19th Avenue, 7th Avenue, 7th Street, 32nd Street, and Scottsdale Road. There's very little cross through the district. Why? Because right smack in the middle of the district is the beautiful Phoenix Mountain Preserve, which effectively disrupts the east-west flow. The communities of interest and connectors, which I have mentioned, North Central, Sunny Slope, Biltmore, Arcadia, Shea Corridor, and Paradise Valley, are residential areas. They are very diverse, they are very active, and the neighborhood associations in these neighborhoods are addressing very, very different problems. While the district is built around a value for public schools, private schools, school choice, parks and recreation, arts and culture, they still vary greatly between the east side and the west side. So let me talk a little bit more about that bifurcation. The pandemic and the Great Recession. I came in on the Great Recession and exited on the pandemic, affected the east side very differently. The tourism revenues plummeted, small business owners struggled, and there was some increase in public assistance. On the west side, high foreclosure rate, job losses, and greater access to public assistance. Further differentiation developed from there. And it's important to recognize that the west side and the east side are very different. I'm happy to submit written comments if needed so that you have more information to inform your choices. It is much, much more granular than just a street or a neighborhood. It really goes to the problems that those neighborhoods are fighting. And with that, I thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Whitney Johnson.
Thank you. My name is Whitney Johnson. I've been a resident of Arizona for over 15 years, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today and put something on the record. It really is. I'm going to be very brief and pretty general. Proposition 106 contains the sentence, to oversee the mapping of fair and competitive congressional and legislative districts. I really just want to implore you, for the sake of representative democracy, that you do your best to accomplish that directive, fair and competitive. It's one of the things I'm proud of Arizona about now, that we have the districts that we have, and hope that we can keep them fair and competitive. And just thank you for taking on this important task under probably not ideal conditions with COVID and everything being delayed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we move forward, I would like to ask, do we need a Spanish interpreter for anybody in the audience? Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Janet Johnson, and I've been a resident of Arizona for 21 years, and I've lived in my community in Phoenix for the past 20 years. My comments today are simple and straightforward. It is vitally important to our democracy that you follow the provisions of voter-approved Proposition 106 and ensure that the districts you draw that will impact all of us for the next 10 years are fair and competitive. Our democracy cannot survive with one party in power with no obligation to listen to and address the needs of all constituents, not just those who voted for them. Further, fair and competitive districts will protect against the extremism that we are currently seeing across the nation, which is again a threat to our democracy. Additionally, I cannot stress enough how important it is that the voting power of communities of color be protected pursuant to the Voting Rights Act. Over the last 10 years, Arizona has become more diverse, and we must ensure that communities of color are able to elect candidates of their choice to ensure that their voices are heard and their needs are met. I appreciate your time today and your willingness to do this difficult work. Thank you.
The next speaker, Lynn Granillo. And then after that is Gazelle Garcia. And after that is Kate Souza.
Hello, my name is Jana Lynn Granillo. Thank you all for, again, to echo what everyone else is saying, to take on this task. I live in Tempe, Arizona, and I'm a lifetime resident of Arizona, except for time served in the military. I've lived about 30 years in the city of Tempe. So I did submit a survey, community interest survey, and I'm going to read from that and then add to that. The city of Tempe is my community and is connected by neighborhoods. Residents are connected to their neighborhood, as is the city by neighborhoods collectively. Organization and voice is often rallied at a neighborhood level. Local city governance is often impacted by legislation at the state level. It is important to keep Tempe together to have a voice around our common issues. Additionally, the city has a system of administration that works to improve housing, childcare, environment, transportation, etc. Our legislative voice and power, I believe, is city-centric. School districts that overlay the city are important, especially when it comes to childcare and social services. If at all possible, keeping those whole will further strengthen our voice. Student housing and other relational aspects to ASU should be kept together. I understand that a legislative district is approximately 240,000, which would work in terms of the city of Tempe. Although there are some common social economic factors with the city of Mesa, I think Mesa is quite different than Tempe. Please keep this in mind when slicing and dicing populations. In addition to the VRA, competitiveness is a high priority for our state, nation, and should not be dismissed. These last years, we have seen extreme polarization. The opportunity that competitive gives us should not be ignored or reduced in any decision criteria. Competitiveness, along with the elevation of VRA, will strengthen us. For geographic neighborhoods, the city of Tempe has maps. I attempted to draw a map using my desktop computer. Please disregard that map. My map is the city of Tempe, okay? I would offer, in regards to the map, when you get down to the grids in the legislative districts, please make that available at the libraries. That would be much appreciative. Also, in terms of competitiveness, I would like to see the metrics sooner than later regarding competitiveness so that we can, as a state, look at what you're doing and compare that. My other suggestion, unsolicited to communities of interest, is that when you're looking at where you're going to start, I've been listening to your conversations, look at where the most dense populations are, because that's where the significant changes are. And also for training regarding the maps, again, disregard my map. I implore you to use something beyond your YouTube training, which is available right now on the web. And lastly, congressional districts are of primary importance, and competitiveness is the most important there. Thank you for your time and your work.
The next speaker is Gazelle Garcia, and then up on deck is Kate Souza.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Giselle Garcia, and I reside right now in the Legislative District 27. And I'm here with the organization Mi Familia Vota. I'm here to testify about the importance of making the 2021 redistricting process a fair and transparent process. The work I do every day reminds me about the importance of having an opportunity to decide who would be representing me and my community at the local, state, and federal level. I know that the work starts with the redistricting process, and how districts are drawn affects every political issue from education to immigration. In addition, paired with the census, redistricting plays a critical part on the type and amount of resources my local community receives for the next 10 years. Providing communities like the one I grew up in and the one I live now the opportunity to shape their future, me and my family's future, is what is at stake. As the Commission looks in the incoming data from the census and considers the shape of our communities, I ask that you center the community's interest that you will affect with this process, that you provide them a voice and a chance in the political process. Thank you for your time to listen to my testimony, and I wish you all the best in this very important process for all of us in Arizona. Thank you.
Coke Souza.
Hi, my name is Cole Souza, and I live in the Pepperwood neighborhood of Tempe, Arizona. I've been a resident there for a little over 3 years. Most of the work that I do is within the Tempe area. And currently right now, we are lumped in with South Phoenix. And it's a very weird thing to me to see that. Everything I do on a day-to-day basis in Tempe is mostly around my neighborhood. Day-to-day, you can find me playing, soccer, going to local gyms and things like that. My zip code of 85283 and those of the South Phoenix area have nothing in common. Okay, so we're asking that you guys take into consideration that we've, been lumped in with the South Phoenix area, and it's something that we probably should be looking at. After talking to a few people in my district and hearing what, when they did the previous redistricting, they were too focused on competitiveness rather than adhering to the 6 laws laid out in the Constitution. Okay. One of the things that really stood out to me was the district should be compact and accurately represent the communities of interest who live and work together. And I think that one was pretty much thrown out. Okay. Because I can tell you this right now, for myself, I don't do anything in the South Phoenix area. Everything I've done is in the Tempe area, okay? So I'll ask you, you guys some questions yourselves. Would you want your kids to go to school in a district that you can't vote in? Would you guys want to be, I'd assume the answer would be no, okay? So simply put, Tempe is my community of interest, and it's not gonna be South Phoenix, okay? So thank you guys for your time, appreciate it.
The next speaker, Tracy Ireland, and following Tracy is Barry Wong, and following Barry Wong is Don Abel.
It's just a little wet up here. I put my phone too wet. I put everything on my phone. Okay. All right. Okay. Good morning. My name is Tracy Ireland, and let me start all over. I'm a little bit nervous. I know you guys are wonderful people, but it's a little daunting to come up here. So, good morning. My name is Tracy Ireland. I'm currently in Legislative District 27, which is South Phoenix. But I reside in Tempe. My zip code is 85283. I work in Tempe. I do my exercise walking in and around Tempe. I do my shopping in Tempe. Grocery, drugstore, gas station, banking. My banker is in Tempe. In fact, in almost all these places, they know me by name. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. But because Tempe is my community of interest. From the previous maps drawn, my community of interest was split. And I do not want to be part of a South Phoenix district because it does not represent me and my community of interest. Also, last time around, districts were not drawn with equal population. This time, please follow the Constitution and make them equal. The bottom line here is, I want to be back in my own backyard, which is Tempe, my community of interest, and not South Phoenix. And I thank you all for taking time today to hear all of our public comments and wish you the best going forward. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Barry Wong. I'm a lifelong Arizonan. Today I want to share with you some viewpoints from two perspectives. One is I'm chairman of Republican Legislative District 24, and secondly, last year as a member of the governor's Census Complete Count Committee and chairing the subcommittee on community-based organizations. Before I launch into those 2 points, I want to first thank you for your service to our state and all you do, because this is a critical work, this decennial exercise of the IRC. First, we have a number of people from our legislative district that will speak today and share their experiences, but I want to let you know that LD 24, as I refer to it, is a pretty compact district from Central Phoenix to East Phoenix to South Scottsdale. Interesting, is eclectic, has quite a diverse combination of demographics, socioeconomic factors. But I want to encourage you as you draw your maps to keep neighborhoods intact. Some of them are older neighborhoods, others are historic. More and more Central Phoenix neighborhoods are historic. Please keep them intact. And those are important because people are committed to their communities. More and more people are engaged in their neighborhood associations, and you can get that information from the various respective cities. Further is that LD24 is more of a horizontal orientation. South Scottsdale is different from East Phoenix is different from Central Phoenix. So please keep all those factors in mind when you review our district. You hear more from our representatives from LD24. Let me talk about my service on the Governor's Complete Count Committee census. Let me be clear and make a disclaimer that I'm speaking in my private personal capacity and not speaking on behalf of the governor, the governor's office, or the state of Arizona. The Complete Count Committee, the subcommittee, had a very successful effort because we reach out broadly and deeply into the community. And the community includes ethnic and racial demographics. As you all know, the obvious groups, the Hispanic, Latino, African American, American Indian, and Asian populations. But we drilled even deeper and found and reached out to these communities that are relatively new in our state in the last 10, 12 years, whether it's the Haitian community, the Somali community, the African immigrant community, which is different than the African American community, different perspectives. So I bring that to your attention and encourage you to look into the work of the State Complete Count Committee, and I'd be glad to share that information with you. And when also you look at the Asian community, that looks at the Vietnamese community on the west side, the Filipinos, and that you're from Chandler, Madam Chair, you know there's a big Asian community out there as well. So in closing, I ask you to also adhere to the 6 major points, criteria established in the Constitution, and adhere to that closely and try not to deviate because everyone is important. That's why it's listed in the Constitution. So thank you very much for your time, and look forward to future meetings.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, I'm going to use my discretion because I have a question and I'm a little confused. I actually lived for a period of time in 85253, and I've heard some comments about wanting to differentiate from South Phoenix. And I'm wondering if we could hear a little bit more about, if not wanting to go west, where do you want to go? I mean, can you share a little bit more about your vision on that?
Madam Chair, I'm going to defer to Ms. Ireland because she was talking about South Phoenix. So may I defer to her? I think that's her specific area.
And I also, you know, I want to remind my colleagues who are dialing in, please at any point, if you have questions, I mean, we want to be good listeners and we're doing our due diligence, but if there's something that you're confused about, need clarification, you know, I'm trying to look at you, but please chime in voice-wise. Please.
Hi. Well, more than 10 years ago, where I live in Pepperwood, which is a neighborhood townhouse association. And it's baseline in Kyrene. And I would say it's baseline, you know, it's over to the Hardy, over to a little bit further, little west over there. It juggernauts around there. And we were primarily in Tempe. In our district and everything we went to was in Tempe. So our area was put over, that small little area has been put over into South Phoenix District. And so through the past 9 years, everything is represented for South Phoenix. And even though we have asked throughout the 9 years, hey, could we pay attention to our area a little bit and help us in our area? And that never happened. So we haven't really been represented for 9 years being in this other district. And we don't per se go over there, because our community of interest is in Tempe. So we have different congressional districts, we have different school boards, different city council, different everything, except for the legislation where we vote for the representatives in state senator. But the candidates are always going to be from South Phoenix. They're never going to be from our community of interest. So again, we're not representative. And that's why we're coming today to say we would like to be back in our community of interest so that we could pay attention to our own backyard and be represented properly.
And my question is, if cutting off boundaries on the west, where would you prefer to move it to? I just want to make sure that we're understanding the requests.
Okay. Well, right now, I believe if we were in the correct position, we would be in Legislative District 18. And so that boundary, oh gosh, I should look at the map.
It's okay.
Does that help you?
All of this is helpful.
Okay. And because we, even though I'm in the other district right now, I refer to everybody and my friends in LD 18 on what is going on. And it makes it hard because South Phoenix isn't my community of interest. So if I can be placed back into this area, then I'm in the proper placement. Did that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for asking too.
Thank you.
Chair Newberg,
The next speaker is Don Abel.
Excuse me, we have a question from Commissioner Lerner.
I just wanted to get clarification on whether the discussion has been about South Phoenix or Ahwatukee area, because I know that the south part of Tempe is connected to Ahwatukee, and I don't know if that's being distinguished.
Okay. My understanding is that is right now part of LD 18, and for me, that's not an issue. I know they're redrawing lines. I don't know how that looks right now. I don't know. I just know that all my friends and people that I work with and people that I confer with and school board issues and issues with city council and everything is all in Tempe. And those people are primarily in LD 18. So I'm not sure if I'm addressing your concern. Am I answering you okay?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
My name is Dawn Abel, D-A-W-N-A-B-E-L. I live in South Scottsdale in districts 24 and 9, an urban area south of Old Town. The most current data show that South Scottsdale demographics comprise 85% Caucasian versus Scottsdale's districts 23 and 6 at 88%, 2.6% Black versus 1.7%, 2% Asian versus 4%, 2.5% Native American versus 1.2%, 0.2% Native Hawaiian versus 1.1%, 2.2% mixed race versus 2%, and 5.3% other race versus 2.5%. 10% of the above noted races are of Hispanic origin. South Scottsdale is composed largely of middle-class workers, including lower middle class who live in apartments, young families in starter homes, an equal population of singles and married, some retirees, and transient homeless scattered between South Scottsdale and Old Town. South Scottsdale has a population of 94K compared to Scottsdale's 234.5K. That's over 1/3 of Scottsdale's entire population. 6% of South Scottsdale residents make under 10K annually, while 16% make 10K to 25K annually. This results in almost 22% of South residents who live below or slightly above the poverty line. 12% of residents make 25K to 40K, while 18% make 40K to 60K. 22% make 60K to 100K. 26% make 100K to 200K, which exposes a largely equal and opposite gap between the haves and have-nots, with the remaining being lower to middle income. An additional 7% of residents above 200K is not considered, as it is an anomaly in this neighborhood and likely corresponds to upward mobility. Our South Scottsdale community is more economically, ethnically, and generationally diverse compared to the rest of Scottsdale and has an infrastructure not typical of the upscale homes, apartments, restaurants, and shopping alternatives north of Osborne Road. Our issues are typical of downtowns that try to equitably revitalize themselves, which we've done to a large extent, but we need government aid for lingering social problems. We battle problems with residential crime, drug trafficking, and the homeless, which need special consideration. We require creative solutions, not old, tired remedies or pittance, which don't produce lasting results. Many of these problems can be remedied through government-funded incentives to pull people out of poverty and off the streets. Thus, it's desirable to keep our urban-friendly legislators who currently represent our districts. I ask that you keep Legislative District 24 and Congressional District 9 as is. Thank you.
The next speaker is Joan Smith. Following Joan Smith is Victoria Grijalva. And then after her, Victoria, is Dave Seligson.
Good morning. Thank you so much for putting this together. It's so critical for us moving forward, and I'd like to thank everybody involved, the commissioner, chairman, and everyone here in the room today. My name is Joan Smith. I live in Maricopa County, specifically in Old Town Scottsdale. I live in LD 24, and I'm part of the Republican Party. Everything I do in my daily life, from work to worship, is within a 7-mile radius of my home. I've worked in the 26 years that I've been here in the hospitality industry, and now I'm with a local publishing firm that represents 2 magazines in the Valley. It was important for me today to provide my testimony because I've lived in Arizona for the 25 years, longer than I've lived anywhere else in my lifetime. This is my home, my community, and the people I love and support. My community is unique. My neighborhood is one of the first planned communities in Scottsdale with it was 60 years ago, with some of the original owners still living on my street. It's a wonderful combination of old and new neighbors. I've enjoyed watching families raise their kids, formed friendships with them, and we've supported one another in harmony for many years. Only a stone's throw away are 2 small churches, a wonderful small high school, and a beautiful park that we all have enjoyed for many decades. My community is made up of small businesses and restaurants, which I've supported over 2 decades as well. Everything I need is right here. Redistricting is important because it controls access to political representation in the United States. I'd like to reiterate the 6 criteria that we should be considering: equal population, compactness and contiguous, compliance with the U.S. Constitution and Voting Rights Act, respect for communities of interest, incorporation of visible geographic features, including city, town, county boundaries, as well as undivided census tracts, and creation of competitive districts where there is no significant detriment to other goals. When people are represented through districts, the U.S. Constitution requires that those districts have roughly equal populations. This requirement ensures that each person's vote is worth the same as any other person's. The main goal of redistricting is to ensure that districts have the same number of people. This protects the American constitutional right to have a vote that is equal to any other person's vote. Last time around, the districts the previous commission drew were not compact, did not have equal population, and were too focused on competitiveness. I do not want to see this happen again to us. Please follow the Arizona Constitution when you're drawing districts this time. Thank you so much for your time and efforts.
Victoria Grijalva.
Good morning. Thank you so much to the commissioners listening along, and thank you to the chairwoman for being here. I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. I know this has a lasting impact on our state. My name is Victoria Grijalva. I'm here on behalf of One Arizona. One Arizona is a coalition of 28 partner organizations representing diverse communities across Arizona. We work side by side to build a culture of civic engagement and democratic participation. Our partner organizations are focused on serving Black, Latino, Indigenous, and Asian communities, and it's important to us that these communities are fairly represented in the new maps that will impact the lives of communities of color, not just for the next decade, but will set up the following decades even beyond that. The demographics in our state, as you know, have changed quite a bit. We know that communities of color are a huge driver of the state's population growth, and in fact, based on 2019 census population estimates in the last 10 years, we know that the American Indian and Alaska Native population growth is over 16%, Black African American growth is over 36%, and Hispanic and Latino growth has been over 20%. So it's crucial to us that as the population of people of color in our state grows, so does our representation. That being said, it's important to us that the commission at minimum maintains the number of minority-majority districts in our state. That means in the Phoenix metro area, we ask that you maintain at least the 6 minority-majority districts here, and that in Southern Arizona, you maintain the 3 minority-majority districts. As a resident of Legislative District 27, I know firsthand the importance of having a minority-majority district. We know that these districts allow for communities of color to elect candidates of their choosing, who oftentimes come from our communities and are actually well acquainted with our issues and the needs of our communities. And to wrap up here, I really just want to conclude with the offer to connect with our organization, with our community partners as you continue to build on your outreach to communities of color, to incorporate their feedback, whether it's in these public hearings or in future ones. Thank you all so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I just want to emphasize again, make sure you're submitting the data through our website just in terms of specific geographical boundaries, and it's meaningful data.
The next speaker is Dave Seligson. Seligson.
That's okay. I get it all the time. Hi, my name is Dave Seligson. I live in LD 28 at 60th Street, just north of Shea. It's east of 51, a Phoenix-Scottsdale blend. We live within 100 feet of LD 23. I work from home while my realtor wife helps folks buy and sell homes in the area. Her latest sale was in Desert Ridge. My kids go to school at Kokopah Middle School. We have 2 daughters who cheer for the Scottsdale Firebirds, and they practice at Scottsdale Ranch Park. My son is learning to skateboard, and he likes Chaparral Park and Scottsdale Greenbelt. When we shop, we favor Fashion Square and Kierland. I mention all these places because our community in Scottsdale, the people there, the community of interest lies mostly north or south of where we live. We rarely venture west of the 51, even though we use it quite often. Now, LD 28 spreads so far west that it includes highly population-dense Sunny Slope and other similar areas. Since these areas have so many more people, our legislatures will always naturally tend to their needs. That means our community will be ignored at best or punished at worst. And the areas on the west end versus those on the east end are diametrically opposite in economic terms. That means my community will be at the whim of the economic ideas of the westward side. It doesn't seem like the previous boundaries were kept compact at all. The boundaries seem to conjoin many disparate communities together, which is opposite to Arizona constitutional requirements. I think the 51 would have made a much better geographical landmark and logical boundary. The districts should favor, all the districts in that area should favor a north-south elongation instead of drifting westward, because that's how we mostly live. However you choose to solve this, please put me in a district that is wholly east of the 51. Thank you for your time.
Again, just a polite reminder, if you will put your phones on vibrate mode and keep your conversations, if you're speaking to somebody else, out in the hallway. Thank you. The next speakers are Ryan Williams. After Ryan Williams is David DeBose. After David is Marcus Took.
Good morning. Madam Chairwoman, members of the Commission, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Ryan Williams. I am the first Vice Chair of the Legislative District 24 Republicans. I want to acknowledge Chairman Barry Wong, who previously had an opportunity to speak, as well as my fellow PCs, and indeed all of us here today. I was born and raised here in the Valley. I'm proud to call it my home. I currently live in Central Phoenix, at about Central and Camelback, just a little bit west of there on 7th Avenue. I'm in the Grandview neighborhood in the Parada precinct. My zip code is 85013. By way of work, I'm a trial attorney, and my practice incorporates all 15 counties of our beautiful state, and I've had an opportunity to travel to all 15 counties, both in personal and work capacities. And when I'm trying some of these cases, both here in Maricopa County and outside of Maricopa County, I speak to a lot of different juries. And one of the things that I ask the juries to consider when they're weighing a case, I'm a civil attorney, I don't do the criminal stuff, is that they need to weigh the evidence as they see fit. And your challenge, members of this commission, is to weigh equally all 6 factors. So yes, while communities of interest are important, they are not more important than the compactness and contiguousness of those districts. Yes, while equal population is important, it is no more important than incorporation of geographic features and boundaries. And yes, while competitive districts are important, they are not more important than compliance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Arizona, and the VRA. Finally, LD 24 runs from 19th Avenue in Northern all the way through Tempe to the 101 in Scottsdale. So I would implore you to take note of both the historic neighborhoods that are unique, both here in downtown Phoenix as well as in Uptown, and second, the growth of our central core that has taken place over the past decade, particularly among students, young professionals, and families. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
David? DuBose?
Yeah, I think I share the same dilemma as the other David, where everybody butchers my name. It's Dubois or Dubois. It's a French name. A little bit about me. I'm a committee chairperson with LD 24, the Republican Party. I'm a lifelong Arizonan. I was born here. Just recently retired from 34 years in the fire service, and I reside in a historical district called Willow downtown. My boys go to Brophy and St. Mary's. We live in Willow, which is downtown in the historic district, and I used to live in another historic district called FQ Story. And the reason I mention these is because of the constitutional provisions in the district boundaries respective communities of interest. And the communities of interest I'm talking about is the historic districts. There's about a dozen of them, and we all kind of tribe together. When one district has an issue, we help the other district, whether it be restaurants that want to come in certain things, and we kind of rally and either oppose or support luminage on high-rise buildings that come down on neighborhoods. We kind of all gather again. And the biggest one that kind of happened was over FQ a couple years ago, where the FAA realigned the flight pattern over historic districts. So we all kind of gathered together, got with our representatives, and as a group together, we were able to change the FFA flight pattern, which my brother, a lifelong pilot, said was impossible. You can't change the FAA. They just can't do it, but we did. So what I ask is that when you consider redistricting boundaries, that you consider the historic districts and kind of group them together because we share a common bond. Our interest in homes that were built in 1924 are not the same as homes built in Mesa in 1999. It's just a whole different segment. So that's my point of interest. So thank you.
Marcus Took.
Good morning. My name is Marcus Tork. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. Thank you for your time on a Sunday morning to listen to all of us here. I'm a husband, father, small business owner, and a resident of Phoenix and Scottsdale. I moved just across the boundary into Scottsdale about 3 years ago, but part of LD 24 in the Barnes precinct now. Kind of sub-communities of interest within this LD are Scottsdale School District, our church parish, our children's school, Veritas Preparatory Academy. Children are involved in school choirs, swim and football teams, as well as mock trial. So we're invested in the community. Our oldest is 19 now, youngest is 9. It's imperative as we do this to really work on building districts that serve all of us in our community, and following the Constitution to make sure that we're working as much as we can to equally weight those 6 criteria to establish the district boundaries and strike a good balance with competitiveness, compactness, equal population balance, where in some of them, I think we've got about a 12% difference from one district to another, and work on a better population balance from one to the next. Previous commission seemed to focus maybe too much on competitiveness that maybe cost us a better balance with those other 6 criteria. With the districts drawn to improve on compactness and more even distribution of populations from one to the next, local communities of interest can be better representative and have a voice in our civic life. Thank you for your consideration.
The next speakers are there's slash marks AE and Lil Weston, Lale Weston, Carrie Jackson, Tiffany Winman.
Okay, my name is Lael Weston. I've lived in Phoenix since 1960. I graduated from ASU with 2 degrees. I live in a retirement home in South Scottsdale in 85257. I want to see that the opportunity to vote is well balanced and that people of all colors and the elderly have an equal opportunity to vote their choice. There are so many individuals that are unable to get to a polling place. They need to get an equal opportunity to vote by whatever means. Thank you.
Carrie Jackson.
Hi there, I'm Carrie, and I've lived here in Phoenix for like 35 years, and I'm from North Phoenix. And I'm right in the middle of North Phoenix in LD 20, and I'm right in the middle of, around me is LD 15, 22, 21, 30, and a little bit of 24 and then 28. And I feel right at home with everybody there. You know, like the only community of interest is that we're just white, mostly, you know, non-Hispanic, and we're majority parts of the working class and retirees of the working class. And I just ask that the district, that the commission just focuses on the fairness and competitiveness. I think that is more important than what some other people have said, and it's even written into the Proposition 106, you know, about competitiveness. You know, a lot of these districts around mine, you know, have been very partisan in the past, and it was so partisan that it encouraged candidates that were very much extreme to run for office. And the members of the political party that was the minority, you know, like when they considered the time and all the fundraising it takes and the amount of energy to run for office, they didn't think it was worth the effort because of the extremism of the partisanism that they wouldn't have a chance to win office. So I'm just asking that you really take into consideration the fairness and the competitiveness, and just thank y'all for y'all's volunteerism and effort to put on this task.
Tiffany Winman.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Winman, and I am in LD 15 and also CD 8. I was born and raised in Arizona. I grew up, I went to elementary school in the Deer Valley Unified School Districts. I grew up in LD 15. My son and my family members attended Deer Valley Unified School Districts, and we love the area. We love our community. The things that we do care about, we're in the outer suburbs, so we care about public education, we care about health care, we care about the stewardship of the natural beauty of our state and our environment. Grew up hiking and horseback riding out in the LD 15 area, the mountains there, they're beautiful. The thing that I'm most concerned about that I'm just asking this commission to do is to take a look at the fairness and competitiveness element in the LD 15 and CD 8 districts, because the parties are skewed there like 40% in favor of the majority party there versus the minority party there. And so it's something that we've never had even in LD 15. Like the one party completely rules and dominates that the candidates there, and there's never been, the other party has never even won in that district. So I'm asking you to take a look at the competitive and fairness aspect there, because there's what's happening is we're getting a difficult time recruiting candidates to even run from the different parties. Like we have no candidates even from the other parties running because they can't win. It's like I said, there's like a 40% imbalance on the one party versus the other party. Also, it's leading to extreme partisanship in our districts, our CD and our LD. And we're getting candidates that we didn't even historically have before from the one party. So the moderates are like losing out and extreme partisanship is occurring. And it's leading to issues that we're seeing in our public school boards. And so I'm just asking that this board take a look at LD 15 and CD 8. So, and thank you very much for your time today. I know you have a difficult task. I don't envy your positions here, but we really respect your work. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
The next speakers are Jay Simpson, Steve Steele. After Steve Steele is Lisa Shku.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Jay Simpson. I've been a resident of North Central Phoenix since 1986. In 2018, I retired from the practice of law, and since then I've been a full-time advocate for voting rights and fair maps. I'm a voter in CD9 and LD 28. I submitted, Mark, my map online through the Community of Interest survey on the IRC website. You have my map and my explanation for it. North Central Phoenix residents come from many religious, cultural, and economic backgrounds. To the extent there's a feeling of community in North Central, it revolves around the Madison Elementary School District, all of which is encompassed in LD 28. As many other speakers have noted, it makes little sense to divide school districts, especially where, as here, the district provides such a bond in the community. So I want to address the creation of the IRC in 2000. In 2000, as a voter, I voted enthusiastically for the creation of this commission. I took great pride in joining a majority of Arizona residents and voters to create an independent commission charged with ending gerrymandering and creating fair and competitive maps. The goal of fair and competitive maps and districts was not a mere afterthought. It was the fundamental mission of this independent commission, according to the ballot proposition. That is why the creation of competitive districts is one of the mandatory criteria for the IRC to consider. Why did voters in Arizona choose to consider and require the creation of fair and competitive districts? Why was it so important? Fair districts protect against extremism and focus the elected representatives on the need to solve the problems of the voters in the district. Put differently, to be successful in a fair district, a representative must actually govern, not just posture. Fair districts encourage bipartisan cooperation. Fair districts result in elected reps who are more responsive to their diverse constituency. Fair districts result in higher quality candidates because candidate quality will matter more in races where the outcome is not predetermined. Competitive districts also encourage higher levels of civic engagement and voter participation because races are not a foregone conclusion. LD 28 is a poster child for this. And I'm sorry that Senator Brophy McGee, who spoke earlier, is no longer here. She was terrific and encouraged incredible amounts of voter participation and civic involvement. The IRC has the tools to successfully balance each of the Constitution's requirements. You can protect the voting power of minority communities. You can respect communities of interest. You can deal with what Mr. Johnson accurately described as the big sort. You can meet the compactness and contiguity requirements, and you can still meet the requirement to create as many competitive districts as practicable. You can do all of it. It's not an either-or choice. Here's my ask, okay? At the end of the day, this IRC should be able to create fair and competitive districts in at least 5 and maybe 6 of the CDs. You can create 20 of 30 competitive districts in the LDs. Hopefully with population increases and population shifts, residential shifts, you can do even better. But that should be a floor in a state where the electorate is equally divided. The districts which you are not able to make competitive, and there's going to be some, to protect minority rights, to have geographic compactness, they should be balanced, right? So if you're creating some VRA districts, you're going to need to balance some with the rural districts, right? To accomplish these goals, though, you're going to need to task your consultants with this early in the process. Please do not think you can leave this to the very end and make a few tweaks and end up where you want to be. I share Commissioner Lerner's concern that the schedule you have published leaves the IRC precious little time near the end to make anything other than minor changes. Thank you so much for taking on this important role. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
And just to let you know, I think the gentleman who just spoke, he had filled out his community of interest survey online, and his map was on the screen up here. So the next person to speak is Steve Steele.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Steele. I live in Gilbert, Arizona. I have the very good fortune of being retired from the oil and gas industry after a 25-year career and a 15-year career in motorcycle safety instruction. My free time now is spent primarily looking for ways to help my family, my community, and myself to be a better person and be a better community. My primary interest today is to encourage everyone to take an active participation, and that's why I am here, is because I want to become an active participant in the decisions that are going to affect future generations of Arizonans for years to come. All Americans must get involved and must participate in their government. We cannot just sit back and relax. It has to start at meetings such as this one, meetings such as school boards, city councils, everywhere. We have to participate and we have to have our voices heard. My interest in speaking for you today is to sincerely consider you to consider and follow the Arizona Constitution as much as possible when defining the new political districts. I'm sure that you gentlemen and ladies know the Constitution more than I do, but I would like to quote Article 2, Declaration of Rights, Paragraph 2, Political Power, Purpose of Government, Section 2. All political power is inherent in the people, and government derive their just powers from the consent of the governed and are established to protect and maintain individual rights. I think that has to be a guiding principle for this committee in formulating the new political districts. To continue, it's not just up to this commission to focus on nor foster political competitiveness or political advantage. Rather, your challenge is to be fair and equitable in all considerations for defining the legislative districts that will affect our communities and your constituents for the next 10 years. The redistricting from the 2010 census, not all districts were fairly or equitably represented. Some districts have populations as much as 12% higher or lower than other districts. It's very, very critical, I believe, that you try to regulate these districts and try to keep any variances to plus or minus 2% or less. I personally believe that all men and women are created equal in the eyes of our Lord and God, and I also believe that race should not have a huge factor. It should be one of the last things to be considered in making our new districts. It should be all humans are equal, no matter what their color, no matter what their race. It is my considered opinion that the legislative districts be compact and concise in their delineation. Keeping the districts compact means that each district is better able to represent the people who live in that district. Keeping the districts compact and sized according to populations, businesses, and community in general, in my opinion, means that the political districts will better be able to serve and meet the needs of the people that the district represents. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners. Thank you for having these meetings and having us here to be able to make our statements regarding the redistricting. I currently live in Legislative District 24, just off the State Route 51. In fact, I live about 400 feet west of the State Route 51, literally spitting distance. I live in a little community called Montecito, and that community actually spans this particular route. And just because the state route divides our community does not mean we do not remain community. Community could be defined in many different ways. People of the same racial, same ethnic, same demographics. We all attend the same community events. Our children all go to the same schools. The state route is an arbitrary division of our community, but it does not define our community. I'm here to hope that you will follow all the provisions of Prop 106 and continue to maintain the competitiveness of our district, which is LD 24, and the competitiveness of other districts. I'd also like to point out that, you know, Kate Brophy McGee did address the differences between the district east and west of the SR 51. And I believe that is a testament to her ability to support both sides with their different communities and different needs, that she became an effective legislature. In dividing these communities, we may wind up with more compact communities, but we also may wind up with less representation and less effective representation and more partisanship and more extremism. I do believe that this commission is working in good faith to basically follow the rules of Prop 106, as well as the VRA and all other rules pursuant to the Constitution. And I hope that you will consider these items and do not let an arbitrary line such as rivers and state routes sway your decisions. Thank you.
The last two speakers, Annalise Ortiz and Kathy Pensaus.
Hello, I'm Kathy Petzes. I don't know if Annalise is here and she would like to go ahead of me. Oh no, your name was first. You go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Annalise Ortiz. I was born and raised here in the Valley. I'm a community organizer, and in 2020, I led a nonpartisan voter education effort across Maricopa County. As part of my work, I talked to hundreds of voters in various LDs, and I will tell you that it was very difficult and very disheartening in certain non-competitive LDs to hear voters at the door say that they felt that their vote didn't matter. Democracy and people's ability to participate in our democracy has been a fundamental value of mine since I was a young girl. My parents taught me about the importance of voting. And I believe that every person should feel they are a valued part of the democratic process and that their voices are being heard. So I ask you to please consider fairness and competitiveness when drawing these maps. And many of the folks that I was talking to who told me these things were Black, Indigenous, or other people of color in Arizona. So I ask you to please take seriously the protections of the Voting Rights Act and preserving the voting power of people of color. Thank you so much.
Hello. I am Kathy Petzes. I am a lifelong resident of LD 28. Not only that, my children also, who were born and raised in what is presently LD 28, are now also raising their children and families there. The district of LD 28 is, as we know, a very competitive district. More districts would be better served in our community as a whole if we did have more competitive districts in our state. And to Mr. Simpson's point of extremism in our politics, yes, that probably does play a role. And I think many of us here are politically involved, which is why we are here to express our interests of what is best, not necessarily just for our area, but for the state at large. LD 28 through North Central, Biltmore, Arcadia, the town of Paradise Valley is a logical community of interest. The most business owners, the most small business advocacy happens to be in that area, and it does make sense that that should stay intact. It does divide across SR 51, as the lady from 24 mentioned. However, it has never been a problem in creating good legislation to come out of effective leaders in that area. So I would say that although LD 28 is also one of the biggest and fastest growing areas, one of the fastest growing districts in terms of the amount of people who have moved in, we're going to probably have to consolidate what those boundaries are and shrink a bit to accommodate the
I believe it's 235,000 voters. Right now, LD28 is 285,000 voters. Yes, it is a very large district. And I would appeal to you all to look at the logical communities of interest and keeping them intact, and also consider competitiveness, not just in LD28, but in all districts where possible, and keeping the logical communities of interest for school districts, for business leaders, and also as it pertains to our effective legislators being elected. Thank you very much for your time, and I am pleased to answer any questions, and I will provide a map in the future. Thank you.
We have two more speakers, Justin West and Eric Klein.
Good morning. My name is Justin West. I'm a resident of LD24. As a resident of District 24 and a neighbor to District 28, I'm proposing that LD28 encompass the area from the 51 freeway east to the 101 freeway and from Bell Road south to McDowell Road. The current LD28 is an odd shape. Its western boundary ranges from 19th Avenue in one portion to the 17 in another. Its other boundaries are equally disparate, and because LD28's boundaries are odd, LD24's boundaries are also odd. If LD28 is reshaped to those boundaries, the 51 east to the 101 and Bell south to McDowell, LD24 could also be reshaped to make more sense. The new LD24 could go from the 51 west to the 17 and from Bell Road south to McDowell Road as well. The new LD24's northern and southern boundaries could be readjusted to account for equal populations in both districts. But the most important reason for reshaping is that the new LD28 and the new LD24 would recognize the different communities of interest west and east of the 51. West and east of the 51, we have different age and family demographics, different economic drivers, different concerns. We have different educational needs and focus on different levels of schooling. Just for example, according to DES's 2020 Legislative District Demographic Summary Handbook, in LD24, 21.5% of us are ages 18 to 29 years old, whereas in LD28, 14% of district residents are in that age group. Those different age demographics tell you that we'll have different interests in terms of universities and community colleges as opposed to, say, elementary and middle schools. Our different demographic cohorts also mean we have different interests and issues in terms of everything from nursing homes, medical facilities and recovery homes, to short-term rentals, small businesses, and dispensaries. Ultimately, we are two different communities of interest, and our district should reflect that reality. Making LDs 28 and 24 have uniform boundaries would accomplish a number of goals and fulfill the metrics that Arizona districts are required to meet. Among other things, it would make both districts' shapes be reasonable and correct the odd boundaries of the current districts. As mentioned before in relation to northern and southern boundaries, it could be done in such a way that district populations are kept reasonably equal, which is another metric required of the state constitution. And most importantly, new boundaries will respect the two communities of interest west and east of the 51 freeway. The state's last redistricting commission was in 2011, and its work was released in January 2012. In the nearly 10 years since that time, Central Phoenix has grown and changed significantly. I ask that our new district boundaries recognize those changes, and I thank you for your time. I'm here for any questions you have. Thank you.
Eric Klein.
Good morning. I thank the committee for its work. My name is Eric Klein. I currently live in the most interesting area of LD24 that I could find. It pops up and goes and cuts over to some particular street, cuts up to, we're talking on 7th Ave, cuts up to Glendale and cuts across to 15th. I'm right at that edge of at 7th and Glendale. I wonder what the reasoning behind that was. That's one of the things that I've found, and I've found it incredibly in a lot of places. I lived in California for years, and I decided it was time to get out of there because nothing was working. I moved to Arizona back in 2011, and it was a fresh breath of air. I was so happy. It felt like there were sane people in Arizona. And unfortunately, over the last, since I've been here, it's steadily gone to let's create a situation where districts, everything is designed for partisan reasons. And one of the reasons that I'm here is that I got involved. I became a precinct committeeman in LD 24. I've contacted a number of people. I'm trying to help because I see the downfall of Arizona, and it's escalated in the last few years. What I'm saying is, what makes where I live different than a block away, or actually, for that matter, I think across the street? The areas should be based on the mix of people, businesses, everything else. They shouldn't be, well, we wanted to get this in here because that may be something that's not going to affect the voting trends, the rest of it. So we want to make this little weird thing, and it's going to cut out. I'd love to see what the reasoning behind this little tiny area that juts out. But aside from that, it was sort of funny. I went and I talked to someone, and they said, they asked, who's representing LD 24? And they said, well, it's always Democrats. There's not even any Republicans that run. So I think we've got an issue here, because I think that it's not so much important to be competitive from the standpoint of making them so big that you've got people that obviously have completely separate needs and outlooks from, you get 50, when you make it like 50 some odd %, which is always an estimate, well, these are the people that would look at this side and the people, 50 that look at this side, but you tweak it a little bit, so it's really a little more on one side. That doesn't really help, because those people that are looking at it from the one side are ignoring the rest of it. And, that's a pretty incredible size that LD 24 is. And it seems like I don't quite understand why that would always be just no point for any Republican to run. There should be some competition, but inside the districts, it's got to be where it's fair, and the areas have to be where they're divided up properly. So that's my thought on it, and I think if you guys could sort of look into stuff like the little tiny outcroppings, what is the reason there? Is there like a whole bunch of people of one side that they wanted to get in there to help the rest of it, or not? So at any point, that's where I wanted to add a little bit to this thing. Look at the details.
Thank you. Is that our last?
Madam Chair, that is our last
public comment. Again, thank you so much for everybody who attended, for your civic participation. Please know that it really makes a big difference. Thank you to our staff and commissioners. Thank you for making the effort to join us.